Making your way through work Monday takes everything you got. Then Monday night rolls around and you realize there's a shot. You're only 10 points away. All those times when your team had no fight, they're just so gosh darn frail. Then your star quarterback let another deep ball sail, and your third round pick bet on his team. Then go check out our streets where everybody knows your pain, and they listen to complaints. You wanna be where you can see our bodies bring you no shame. You wanna go where everybody knows your pain.
Welcome back to another episode of Dad Bod Fantasy Squad. I am here. Joining me is Rob Norton. What's up, dude?
Not much. How you doing tonight?
I'm pretty excited to talk some Dynasty because, you don't always get a time to in the middle of the season, so that's going to be fun.
Yeah, dude, I'm pretty excited. Pretty excited to kind of get after seeing how these rookies land, midpoint of the season pretty much, and what things that have changed from before the year.
Perfect time to do it after Stroud and Tank Dell just lit it up. Bijan just stunk it up. QJ, another worrisome performance. I mean, that's going to be an interesting one between us, right?
I think, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how much he slides, because obviously everyone knows he's going to slide at least a little bit.
What was he, 6'7"? Like
yeah,
6th or
range.
7th?
Yeah.
Before we do that, we also got waiver wire today. But before both of those, this is probably the order of operation. We're going to do some news. We're going to do the redraft of the rookies. And then we'll talk some waivers. And really, the waivers are going to be a little bit short because a lot of these guys we've talked to you about before. Don't want to harp into too many of them this week. But we'll focus on some. So let's get into some news. Crazy Cam Akers tears his Achilles. Do you know if this was the same one?
It's the other one. So now he's got both.
There's not. You can't come back from this, right?
That's how I feel, man. It's like it was kind of like considered a little bit incredible that he came back
6 months or something, right?
Yeah, from the first one, right? And now he's got the one on the other. Like, dude, this is. I mean, to me, it's career ender, but
yeah, he might be. He's definitely. I mean, I don't want to say definitely. Nothing's definite, but if you have him in Dynasty, he's droppable. It's going to be a very long road to see if he ever becomes fantasy relevant again. But the odds are stacked against him. I can't even think of a player that's tore both Achilles. I feel like it's never happened unless it's happened in one singular incident, and I don't know if that has.
Yeah, I can't think of anyone either, to be honest. It's brutal for him.
It is. It's sad. Against his old team, too.
Unreal.
Kyler Murray named the starter this week against Atlanta. Odd. I'm so confused. I don't understand anything. I guess maybe it was like, we don't want to start you against the Browns. They're a little.
I think that's what it.
Fast.
I think that's what it was. Honestly, I think it's like, we're not going to throw you back out there first game against Cleveland, taking hits and stuff. Like, that's my thought on it.
For Cleveland, it has to be, right. Like, I mean, what he was cleared for like 3 weeks now. Kind of thought they were just going to be like, yeah, we're just going to roll with Clayton Tune and we'll get you back in when we could get you back in.
That's how I feel. Yeah. I mean, honestly, we had talked about it all the time. I expected him to come back. Like, I just was like, my thought the whole time was like, Kyler is not going to just agree to sit out if he's healthy. Like, and maybe they came to an agreement like this last week that they were like, and he's just like, yeah, I probably don't want to face the Browns defense first week back.
at the end of the day, it's a business decision. Like, I don't know. I'm shocked, but I feel like you look at them as competitors, like the players, NFL players as competitors.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I don't see all of them that way. And this is not even a dig at Kyler. I just think it's a business decision when your team, like if Vikings were going to continue to lose, I was finding it hard. What sense does it make for JJ to come back? Now at this point, it's a completely different situation now that we're here, but what's up, Albert?
What's up,
Very
Albert?
strange.
Yeah, it really is. I think from a management perspective, honestly, I understand like you're thinking like, oh, just tank, sit him out, just tank, don't risk re-injury because now you have him and then you can get a better pick. Like it makes sense from a football GM standpoint, but like at the end of the day, these guys are still human beings and want to get paid and want to play and they're competitors. So it's like that aspect of it's tough to deal with from that standpoint.
I think part of them, oh God, I think I'm going to hate saying this. Logically, it's over, but the division isn't as hot of hand as it could have been.
Yeah, for sure.
Seahawks keep losing. Rams keep losing. 49ers on a 3-game losing streak. The division's not out as they are not statistically eliminated.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Right? Like,
I agree. I mean, obviously we know that they have the worst record, right? So it's like
they have to go on a 9-0 run.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. But at the same time, like you said, like it's not doable. It's very unlikely, but it's not completely gone.
I wonder if once it's completely gone, does that decision happen? Because then it really, truly, it doesn't make sense for Kyler to be out there. It makes no sense for it.
Yeah, I agree. It makes no sense except for him.
I'm saying but he's paid. So what's the sense for him?
To not have to possibly get dealt somewhere or lose your job to someone. I mean,
maybe he wants to get dealt.
It's possible. Well, yeah, and that's the thing is we don't really know what goes on in the mind of any of these people. Like, like logically, I think what you're thinking is more logical, for sure. Like but then you think about it from his standpoint. Does he want to move, right? Like, does he want to pack up where he is? Is he comfortable where he is? Like there's a lot of like human being standpoints that hard to really quantify when you're just talking about like logic.
Yeah. Daniel Jones tears his ACL. This is tough. It was a tough week. Out for a year.
Yeah, this tanks them. Like that team. I mean, Saquon's the only viable player.
He's not going to be there next year. No point.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I would think, right? I mean,
they should have probably shipped him. They should have probably shipped him before deadline.
Yeah, seriously, for sure.
I'm so serious. Like, what? It just doesn't make like. Look, I'm never gonna say that I'm better GM than the GMs in the league, but like, even with Daniel Jones healthy before the deadline, which he was, or kind of. I mean, he was dealing with a neck issue. Shit. What are you playing for? Your team is half depleted as it is. Darren Waller's out. Your whole line is out. Like,
yeah,
get some assets.
I agree. I don't understand.
They didn't pay sometimes. Him. It doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah, I don't understand sometimes what these people are doing.
And it's kind of crazy. We didn't even hear it. We didn't even hear like Giants are checking in on offers for Barkley. We didn't hear none of that.
Right. Whereas like with Adams, we heard there was offers, and like from the Jets.
Josh Jacobs.
Right. But you didn't hear any of that about Saquon.
No. It doesn't make sense to me.
Weird.
Dallas Goedert fractures forearm, may hit IR. I think he did hit IR.
Was it official?
When did you write this?
Yeah, probably this afternoon sometime.
I think he hit IR.
So it's possible, yeah.
Nothing that we have to look up. I think the likelihood of him hitting IR is pretty strong.
Pretty strong, yeah. Boost for Devontae.
A little Swift.
Yeah, those two kind of should see a bump in target share, I would think.
Do you pick up a tight end from this? Maybe that's a Jake Stoll or whatever it is.
Yeah. I wouldn't. Did they still have that Calcaterra dude or whatever it was? Grant Calcaterra. He was on there before too, and then they had Stahl and him. But I don't think so. I mean, I think really the biggest boost goes to like Devontae and Swift in target share. So
I think Goddard. I think Goddard's days of being top 6 probably over.
yeah,
Jalen Hurts just looks at AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. Like he's the third, maybe fourth option on every Sunday now, where he would arguably be the second option per game.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think so. I think his stock has gone down even before getting injured. Just from like a dynasty standpoint, thinking like,
yeah.
So yeah,
Khalil Herbert designated for return from IR. This is kind of big news for the Bears.
Yeah, I don't know if they said he practiced in full, but right, like the thing I heard was he practiced in full, but they haven't decided if he's going to play this week. So I don't know. Like I'm kind of expecting him to play this week if he's practicing in full already, but I guess we'll see. I mean, obviously with Kyler, but Kyler was kind of a different situation when you have a franchise QB with an ACL versus a 4-week injury from a running back. So it'll be interesting. Roshan kind of got phased out a little bit. It seemed like last week, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think Roshan this season's happening. Do you, if Khalil Herbert's on your waivers, do you pick him up ASAP?
Yeah, he'd probably be my top of the guy. We'll get into it later, obviously. Like we talked about before the show, it's kind of a rough week in my opinion for most of the guys that are like available more than half of leagues.
Devon Achane likely to return in week 11 after bye. He's a huge grab if somebody was silly enough to drop him, but this is probably the least likely to be dropped out of this.
Yeah.
That's
this
exciting.
is kind of I was gonna say this is kind of more of just it's exciting. Dude was unbelievable before he went down, and I think he'll return assuming he's healthy. I mean, obviously it's hard to assume health when a guy's returning from injury. Like we never want to assume full health, but like if he is returning fully healthy and to 10 to 15 touch role, he can be a league winner type guy again down the stretch. So
is there an argument to be made that this helps Raheem Mostert? Sounds silly. I hear myself. It sounds silly.
I guess you could make the argument that it keeps him fresh
because I believe his last good game was with Achane or Achane. So his last good game was Carolina week 6. Let me see when.
Yeah, although I would say this week wasn't bad, right? Like he had like 80-something a touchdown or something.
I'm talking about
a big boy game.
Great. Oh, big boy game was the first game Achane was out. He had a 35er.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, yes, and like you could think of it
his
from
touches relatively haven't really changed. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, keeping them fresh or getting them in different situations, especially if they play them both on the field at the same time and spreading the defense a little bit more, creating bigger lanes. Yeah, in that sense.
Where in the defense, like trying to chase Achane all over the field is probably terrorizing the defense.
Yeah, I would still say it's downgrade, obviously, like just from a volume
would
standpoint.
You buy?
But no, I'd be selling. But unless people are selling,
I think you're selling at a discount right now.
Right. Well, that's the thing is, people are selling at a real discount. Then sure, yeah. But like, I mentioned like he would be a sell for me, but like, it's hard to really sell him because people are basically he's on buy and people are expecting HN to come back strong.
Exactly.
So like,
I think you would have to. I think he's a buy.
Yeah, he's probably more.
You're not going to sell at this price.
He probably is more of a buy, depending on where people have him ranked, though. That's the thing.
Demont likely to return this week. This probably the biggest effect to their RB situations that we're talking about. I mean, I don't think Gibbs goes away to what he was weeks 1 through 4 or whatever, 1 through 6.
Right. Yeah, I think he's been too good to relegate to nothing, right?
Like right. But he's not going to be at the amount he was these past 2 weeks.
Right. They're gonna use a committee. I think they're gonna. I think it's gonna kind of get like a little bit like because I love this offense for a fantasy standpoint. Like Laporta, Amonra, Gibbs, Monty. Like it's very condensed too. But
Now
like
David Donovan People Jones too.
that's true. That's true.
He's a sneaky
Can't-
second. And JMO.
Yeah, it is an explosive offense too. And the thing is like the only thing that like Monty kind of like mucks it up in the sense that like because he's a grinder type, right? So like
Yeah.
when you have him on the field, like yeah, he maybe can get some explosive plays here and there, but like not like Gibbs or not like the other guys. So when he's grinding the game out, he's getting first downs, getting yards, but like it's like shortening the amount of plays, shortening the amount of yards on the field for both sides technically.
Yeah.
So it kind of like makes it a little
Slows
bit
the game
less
down.
fun in a sense, like from a fantasy like bonanza standpoint, I guess.
Yeah. I love this one. I don't know if you saw our Discord chat. I have a little fruit fly flying around, and it is driving me nuts. I don't know if you saw our Discord chat, but I've been loading up on the Wentz lottery for the past couple of weeks.
I did see that. I did see it a little bit. I was trying to catch up on a bunch of stuff, and I saw that you had been. I knew you had been clamoring for some Wentz to happen to somewhere.
For a while. I just don't think he is as bad as about 10 starters last week.
Dude, I was gonna tweet something out. I never ended up getting around to it, but like just the names of players of QBs that were starting last week. Like
no way
it's
Wentz is
brutal.
worse than there was about 10 guys that I counted that he could easily outperform. I'm not saying he's amazing, but I don't know what it is about him that teams are like, yeah, we're good. I am glad to see he's on a team. I don't think we even get to see him play. I think he is pretty much insurance. I think he may have been selective with some of his decisions. I don't know. I don't know.
More of that, yeah. That's what my guess is. Because it was bad this past week.
Like there's a couple, like, did the Giants call him and he was like, no, thank you. Did the Jets call him? And he would have had to say yes to the Jets. So the Jets probably didn't, right? Like you would say yes to the Jets.
You'd think, because they have a good kind of cast around, like a couple good, really, really high end playmakers, and then they have great defense.
Right. And if he said yes to the Rams, which is Stafford or, Rodgers on the Jets, then I would assume he would have done the same for the Jets, especially after Rodgers went down.
You'd think.
Weird. Excited to see. I really don't even think we see him play. It sounds like they're pretty optimistic about Stafford returning week 11. All right. Before we get into the waiver wires, let's get into our draft. So I'm going to make us a little bit smaller here. Let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger. I wish it would just not show the random so okay, to explain, Sleeper does not allow less than 4 teams to do mock drafts. So what we did was we have 3 and 4 teams, but we didn't want them to take any of our players. So we just put the worst rookies that were on the list on their team and filled them up. So when we do this mock draft, they will just keep going me and Norton. So please don't, I know people are probably going to ask or hop in and see, please don't pay any mind to these players here on teams 3 and 4. It is really just going to be me and Norton doing our own version of a 2-man mock draft for rookies from the 2023 class, which we are going to get started.
Yeah, and we're not drafting it as if it was our team, right? We're just drafting it in the order.
Just how yep, exactly. You're not
Just so
there's
people
no
know.
teams. Yeah, we're not building a full team. We are primarily just kind of ranking these in a version of a mock draft and saying I talent wise and fantasy wise, this is who I would take as of today.
Yeah.
Ready to start it?
Yeah, man, I'm gonna say it's tough. This first pick here. I
I mean,
it's
I'm going with one or the other.
yeah, I know. I saw you had snagged that 2 spot, making that little move there. So I think since
I actually might not be snagging one or the other. So go ahead.
I think I gotta go. It's maybe recency bias, but I gotta go CJ Stroud.
So this is very clearly to me the number one right now. I mean,
In
the guy
Superflex.
looks like in Superflex. He looks like the man. He looks like one of the better rookie QBs we've seen since Burrow. But I mean, he's even outperforming Burrow's rookie year, who got hurt. I mean, what was the last rookie season that you remember has been this good? He has one interception on the year.
Dude,
One.
I tweeted out something today where I was like, he's trying to make a case where you put him in like the legit like Burrow, Herbert, like
I
pseudo
might be there.
like. Well, that's what I'm saying. He's about there as a rookie, because those are the only guys that I talk about all the time. Like the elite tier is literally like the rushing QBs, like for fantasy, the guys that like run, and then like the tier right after them is like the Burrow,
Younger
Herbert.
gunslingers.
Yeah, and people were expecting T-Law to get into that this year. I was down on T-Law personally, but like
You want T-Law or Stroud in
Stroud.
Dynasty right now?
Stroud
Probably the same.
for sure for me. Not even a question.
The coach is better. And I get it. Doug Peterson's fine. D'Amico Ryans is a good coach.
Yeah, it's also the thing that, at least right now, is that the Texans cannot run the ball and the Jags can with ETN. So like the Texans have to throw a lot, and Stroud can do it. So you love that from a fantasy standpoint.
I think that would be the concern there, right? Is next year we'll see them draft a running back, second or third round, I bet.
Yeah, and it will be interesting to see who. Like if we get more of like a guy that's really good pass catching type back, then you're gonna be like, ooh, this might be another.
Can I make a prediction?
Yeah, let's hear.
They're gonna get back their Henderson for Stroud.
I was literally thinking, I was like, he's gonna say that we got Travion Henderson.
He's not going to go that early, I don't think. I think he's a third round, maybe even fourth.
Do it up like the ETN T-Law.
Yes. I could see it.
I could see it too, honestly, especially if Stroud calls for it, and he did for Tank Dell, right?
That's the news. And Tank has been, oh my gosh, where are we going to take him? All right, so let me do mine. I'm sorry. I get it. Anthony Richardson is probably a close one here. So here's my thought. And this is funny because I've been the guy that's been, I feel, most in tune with knowing that Arthur Smith didn't care about you and I. Bijan, however, he clearly doesn't care about. And maybe this is my Kyle Pitts. Maybe this is my Drake London, right? Like I'm like, they'll get the ball eventually. The real belief I have is I think Arthur Smith days are starting to get numbered because he's not winning anymore with these radical methods.
Yeah, I hope so. Everyone hopes so in the universe. Like,
do you go Bijan 2 there as well?
Yeah, I debated him at 1 even, to be honest. I mean, it's just because I think he's such an elite level guy. But in Superflex, I was like, in a 1 QB, I'd still go Bijan 1.
The next one's like, I think a clear cut next. I think it goes, if we look at a tier system, I think this is tier 1 right here. And I even wonder if you could argue that Stroud is a tier of his own. And then we're going to create tier 2 right here and then close tier 2. I don't personally, this is where I would rank the guy, I think. Holy smokes, dude. This is tough. Oh, this is tough. Okay. Superflex.
Is this? I didn't clarify. I don't tight end premium or no?
No, but he is
Okay.
definitely one of the considerations right now, right? Like
Yeah,
there's three guys that weren't even close to getting drafted at the 3 spot that people are going to probably call me insane for. And I think they all could deserve it.
Yeah, no, it's fair. And that's why I wanted to make the clarification before we even hit it, because I was drafting as if it was Superflex non-tight end premium, but because obviously tight end premium changes a little bit at least.
I'm struggling. If I was drafting my team today and he was healthy, I would go with Anthony Richardson.
I was gonna say for me, he's a clear 3.
He's not as clear to me but here's the reason. I am a big, and I'm trying to get over this. I'm big fear of, okay, we already saw 2 different injuries within 4 or 5 weeks. What else are we going to have? The second thing is like, it was with wasn't it his throwing or non-throwing?
I don't remember, to be
Because
honest.
if it's throwing, that's a little bit, I don't know either, so I'm not going to make the case. But if it was his throwing, that's a little worrisome too. You miss a whole year of development on a already very raw prospect. I hate it. I would hate it for any player. But
Yeah,
that's where I understand he was just dominating when playing. This is the CMC thing that I'm trying to get over. You want a guy that can dominate. If he gets hurt, he gets hurt. That's how the cookie crumbles, I guess.
yeah. No, it's fair. It's fair.
I'm excited to see these because this is where it starts probably turning insane.
For me, like it's kind of like the first 2 are a tier, and then Anthony Richardson is his own tier, and then to me, this guy right here is his own tier as well.
You know what? I'm kind of surprised by that.
Really?
I don't think let's just say this. I don't think he's his own tier, and I don't think he was my pick.
Interesting.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, to me, he's just been like too explosive, too good, especially when we see, because I don't know, it's tough. Like there's only one other running back in consideration there, which is hard for me. I mean, because right here, like this part right now is where it gets kind of like a big.
There's about 3 guys that could go right now.
I don't think it's a big. 4. There's 4 or 5 for me.
I see 3 very clear for me personally, but
Okay.
I'm also kind of out on the last QB.
Yeah, it's not even the QB for me. That's the part of that 5.
Okay.
Part of that 4 for sure. But, okay. So I think, especially he's already hitting longevity. I'm gonna go Jordan Addison. I like him a lot.
He's one of the guys that I said it's between 3.
Yeah, I figured he was.
The other 2.
Yeah, I figure. And Addison to me is like he's been awesome without Jefferson. I think he was good. He was good enough with Jefferson. And wide receivers to me like are the longer term bet than anything else. So there was other guys I consider there for sure, obviously. And so I'm interested to see which are the other 2 that you go with, because there's more than 2 more for me.
For interest of time, because I'm very certain that this is the route I'm going to do them back to back.
Yeah, just double them up.
To me, it's easy.
I debated HN. HN's like the wildest card to me out of them.
If you're talking tiers, I specifically this would have to be a tier for me right here. Those 4 players. I think it's very clear their roles. I think they yeah, I don't know like who's even in that tier with them currently. I guess maybe maybe Dalton Kincaid, but we don't have enough data to say that yet.
No, it's not Dalton Kincaid. These are the 2. I'll hit it here.
Well, there's definitely a wide receiver out there that to me is probably top 4 now, and we know who it is, right? Oh, I didn't even think of him.
He's in there with me. That's what I'm saying. He's in that group for me, and then so is this guy.
Okay, I think JSN has been good for what we've seen. My actual concern is starting to be the quarterback on that team.
I think there's a lot of positive, especially touchdown regression coming that way.
Get out of here!
Mingo.
When did you become a Panther fan? We got a comment
Mingo.
saying Mingo should be higher. Okay, so
Where is
do you want me
Bobo?
to keep rolling with this?
Yeah.
If it would happen, I would go Zay Flowers next.
Yeah, that's the one that I really wanted to get into there with. Like, he's in that tier with me. Like, I love Flowers so much, and it would hurt me to not take him above those.
Bobo Cowers. And this would have to be wide receiver 5. Am I crazy?
I don't think that's crazy.
Like the question is, do you take him over Quentin Johnson? You have to go Tank Dell, right?
Yes. I take Tank Dell over QJ at this point. I take others over QJ too, honestly. I mean, we're being real.
Yeah, so I mean, we're gonna go. Let's see if we can move us to. Yes, that will work. Yeah, I think Tank Dell, Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers is a little concerning, but Lamar hasn't really had to throw the last 2 weeks. Tank Dell, though, man. I mean, you got to. I think he's wide receiver 5 over Quentin Johnston.
Yeah, no, I agree. Flowers was the one that I want to get higher, but like it's just tough. I love Flowers. I really love Flowers, especially in a full PPR.
Okay, so when we look at these, I think you could put him over JSN.
I considered it. I'm not gonna lie. I considered it over Puka as well. Puka's been so good though. That's the thing. It's tough.
We did not draft Downs yet, but he's
table talk, my man.
This is freaking. You're ruining the draft, Felix. What are you doing?
That was my deep sleeper.
Throw him out there, Norton.
All right, so I'm gonna go.
Puka is already your deep sleeper. That's probably the next tier. It has to be.
Yeah, I think so. Right. He's been really good once he's gotten kind of the role. Once he's kind of emerged a little bit these last few weeks. I was not a big believer in Kincaid, and he kind of like, I think he went higher. Obviously, he was the number 1 like easily in a lot of drafts. So I think his value is slightly down, but I think it's kind of like leveled, plateaued off. But and I think I'm gonna have to stop the slide here. It's been rough, but in a super flex first overall draft pick, at this point, like I would take him.
Okay. Say and Felix is gonna love this comment. Say Levis comes out this Sunday and throws 3 touchdowns, 290 yards, no interceptions. Does that flip? I know it's very reactionary. I completely understand that, but it's not like we have a ton of data supporting that Will Levis can't be that.
No, not for me. It's still a second round pick versus a first overall pick, and we're talking about part of a rookie season. I mean, let's not forget, dude.
I get it.
Peyton Manning.
Jalen Hurts was a second round pick.
Yeah, but Peyton Manning, what do you have? 28 picks as rookie year. I'm not saying he's Bryce Young's Peyton Manning. Don't get me wrong. I didn't like Bryce Young and much Peyton Manning. I'll tell you that. But like,
I think sometimes we look at like stats and we forget about and I think there's a huge impact rookie year specifically. But I am a big believer in coaching. I think Bryce Young is not in the best place of development from a coaching standpoint. I don't think Frank Wright is a coach. Then I'm also a big believer in like his surrounding talent, and they did nothing to surround him.
Yeah, they changed up like a lot of people, but like it wasn't really anything good. Like,
so what's that do for his development? What's that do for his confidence? That's like every year the Browns drafted a quarterback in the first 15 picks or whatever it may have been, and then what's it? It just I don't know.
My hope is that because he hasn't looked good, especially last week. There's been flashes of games where he's been fine and looked good at points. I just think that it's hard for me to look at like the numbers that he put up and especially the underlying metrics and stuff that was like really comparable. Like looking because I wasn't as big on Young early in the process, and then I kind of grew on him because like he
That was
had
your
so
number one,
many.
right? And I'm not trying to
Yeah,
call you. That was your number one.
it was, and it wasn't for a while. Well, no, it was Richardson was always the one for me, but like
Oh yeah.
Bryce, I ended up flipping above CJ Stroud, which yikes at this point. But like Bryce, I fell in love with like the metrics that were very similar to Burrow and Mahomes. Like his stuff, he dominated compared to the other guys in stuff that Burrow and Mahomes all dominated in.
Well,
Like,
but that's what I mean. Like, it's hard to envision the way that we've seen this offense in Houston, the coaching, the scheme, the play calling. Hard to envision Bryce Young would be as bad as he's been playing with Carolina. I actually find it hard. I am not saying Stroud is only succeeding because of the coaching, but I'm also saying that Young is failing heavily because of coaching and scheme and surrounding.
Yeah, when Adam Thielen is your go-to guy, then I mean, and that's not even
Who's
a
a
knock on
great
Thielen,
receiver.
but like,
No,
right.
he's a great receiver. It's just you would just hope that you're getting your rookie QB, maybe somebody to grow with, not
Yeah,
to.
and you got Chuba Hubbard leading the backfield. Like, dude, this is just a rough.
It's bad, and that's my concern overall. Like, he was never going to be selected by me in this. I was never going to put him in my.
Damn, I could have slid him. I could have slid him further.
You could have slid him, and there's one other person that I'm not going to select at this point. But I will select my next one. Mm-hmm. It starts to get a little finicky here. It starts to get a little tough. But
I have some in mind that I think you're going to go with, but
I got to go with this one because
that's the exact one I expected. Considering all of our talks from waiver wires and stuff.
I love this player. I have been getting. I've said it. I think on one of the episodes how I call him Devontae 2.0 and looked it up, and somebody else calls him Devontae 2.0 as well. I think he's gonna be a dog. I think he's gonna do it. All right, and then it's oh god, this is where it's like it's not even like the choice of like who am I excited to take. It's more of the choice of like, how do I shoot my own foot here? I think from the eye test, I go here.
I like it. He's one I was considering.
And there's obviously who you will likely be taking in the next two picks. He has more of a role potentially next year. I don't know. At this point, I would probably go Spears over Charbonnet is what I'm holding back from saying here.
Yeah, and Charbonnet is my next.
Charbonnet's looked fine. It's just hard to be like, okay, I'm going to take this guy. That's all. And I knew Downs was coming as well.
Yeah.
Charbonnet's fine. It's hard to be like, well, here's a guy who's always going to be with a 23-year-old back who's the same age as him. Like that's the scary part.
I can understand that because both Charbonnet and Spears have looked good and when they've gotten chances. So it's tough. Like obviously Spears has the older guy ahead of him, and so I can understand that.
And he showed it, right? Like before the draft, I wouldn't have done that because I didn't necessarily trust his talent, but he's actually showed as one of the more talented backs out of this class as well.
Yeah.
Little spurts, but I love the Downs pick.
Yeah, he's been awesome.
All right. I mean, it's super flex. I guess I'm here now.
Yeah, he was
I didn't think I would be here. I'm here now. It's getting ugly though, quick. It
really is.
I love this guy, so this is a biased one. I'm gonna go with my boy Rashawn Johnson.
Yeah, can't blame me for either of the picks. There would have been. I probably would have taken him with one of my two.
Starting to get more subjective, less ranking, right?
Yeah. So I think here is where
you're gonna stop the slide. You're gonna catch the
falling
knife.
The QJ slide.
So that's 20, right? That's 20. Number 20.
I think so.
So in this scenario, he would be second round pick, late second.
Yeah, so he's obviously another big slider in this, and still a first round rookie. We've talked about it though, how we're both getting very worried. Like
We're probably the most like if people were to rank, 20 is probably the lowest.
I might take him above Roshan personally, but like it's not very much. I mean, I just took Downs above him, so like, and I'm gonna take all the guys that we had above him, so he maybe would move up a spot too, maybe. So like, the case forms obviously still a first round draft capital rookie, was always kind of going to be a project a little bit, like comparably. And then now, like, I feel like that game, 2 weeks ago, was like pretty encouraging. He had like 5 or 6 targets and was pretty encouraging. This last game, I feel like, was very game scripted out, like for most players, because they got 2 defensive special teams touchdowns or whatever. But so like, it was kind of, and then the other time that
great defense too.
Yeah, and then the other time, like, they got almost down or whatever there, and then Eckler punched in for a 1-yarder. So like, it was a really weird game script for them. So I'm not going to knock this last game against pretty much anyone. It'll be interesting. The rest of the season is going to be important to see where he goes.
It's
though.
all about the rest of the season. I mean, if he can't command more than an 8% target share, if he can't command, I mean, probably like a 15 on a regular basis, you're not going to feel great. Not with the weapons that they currently have, right? I mean, and not even that, but they're not winning. It's not like they're just Patty Mahomes in the game, right? Like they're not winning.
Yeah.
And and Herbs is looking at Palmer, and Palmer wasn't out there last night, but again, I understand not holding that game against him because it was the Jets, and he saw a lot of sauce.
Yeah, for sure. And this is where it starts getting really, really rough for me.
It's getting pretty dicey. I have maybe a clear 1-2 here.
I think
that was probably it.
Yeah,
he's flashed.
He's flashed, yeah, for sure. I still don't. Anyone at this point, what's that?
They don't utilize him.
Yeah, anyone at this point, though, for me, basically after Roshan, maybe after QJ, is kind of the point where it's dart throws. Like,
so we're going to
I think it's more likely that anyone at this point doesn't work out than works out.
So I'm going to kind of rush through this. Then I would easily go Kendre here, and I'd go Musgrave. Those are just 2 of my favorite guys right there.
Musgrave was the one I considered there at.
I think you take Mayer over Musgrave still.
Yeah,
Musgrave is going to get used more though, so maybe not. But Mayer looked better.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm like,
yeah.
I think I'm gonna go Mims here.
It's great Mims pick.
Hopefully that at least one of the other guys are gone at some point. And Jaden Reed, I think. Reed's flashed at times this year as well.
I saw low snap percentage this week, though.
Yeah, and I think I don't know. It's a little bit worrisome to me, maybe, that he can't beat out Dobbs, but like Dobbs also has kind of played better than your typical 4th round or whatever.
Dobbs is the best wide receiver on that team currently.
Right now, yeah. I think with the Watson thing is a lot of injury stuff, because the dude has been banged up before the year. He gets banged up like every single freaking week, and he had 3 different injuries this week, like 1 lower body, 1 upper body, 1 head. It was just like, dude, like it's becoming like a lost season for him.
This is tough. I'm gonna go with the sneaky one here. So it's more like if I was drafting this way, less of ranking.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I'm going to go, well, not obvious, but Jalen Hyatt. Here's the reason. If they draft a quarterback next year, I'm going to want this guy. And again, it's kind of a high upside thing that I have coming up next, but I think I go here because I think the talent is there. Not quite. I clicked it.
Is he? Interesting.
He might be the RB2 next year, right? I mean,
very possible. Very possible.
Will be gone. Michael Carter's probably like close to his final year of his contract, maybe one more year.
Yeah. I think I go.
I think he's talented.
Yeah, I liked him before the year. Obviously he's got buried and injured and stuff, so it's like kind of tough. But I think I go
space here.
Here and here.
Probably gonna have to go back to the side. So we'll do that. Michael Wilson's a great pick. And I like Tank as well.
Tank's more of a stash.
Yeah, type. Tank and Iggy. Close to the same situation, not quite this. I think Izzy will be in the same situation as Tank next year.
That's fair. Last little guy.
Steal of the draft.
He's who I debated him too. The only reason I went with Tank over Keaton was draft capital. But
yeah, I mean he was undrafted, right?
East
Carolina.
He's flashed, obviously, and we'll get a little bit more talk on him here in a little bit. It's a nice little professional segue by you there. That was beautiful. Thank you. Beautiful.
Definitely as designed. It was definitely my plan. Let's get into it again. We're gonna kind of fly through these a little bit faster than normal.
Yeah, because like we talked about before, and I think most people probably realize is like the waiver this week is gross. It's just not that great. I mean, which is tough too because we have some like 3 like elite offenses on bye, so it's kind of sucks. But it is what it is, you know.
It's dry. We do have some QBs to look for. Now we're only going to really touch on 2 of these, so I'm going to rule out the list as it is right now. Is that all of them? 6, I think, right? You got one more in there?
Yeah, that's it.
So we have here QB waivers to search for. Kyler Murray goes against Atlanta, Sam Howell at Seattle, Deshaun Watson at Baltimore, Russell Wilson at Buffalo, Baker Mayfield versus Tennessee, and Taylor Heineke at Arizona. Let's talk a little bit.
I was going to ask you is because I've kind of put them, just so you know, I generally put them in my order of preference. If so, when we pop them out, I was going to ask you each time, like, what changes would you make if you were putting preferences in for people?
For the week, I switched Russell and Deshaun.
Fair. Definitely fair. Those I literally flip-flopped them like a couple times. So
yeah, I think that's it though.
Yeah. Okay.
So we clearly both favor Kyler Murray if he's available. He is actually somebody I wanted to talk about with you a little bit. Do we expect him to return to top 12 QB performance? Not quite. What are we expecting out of picking up Kyler Murray off the QB waiver wire, or if he's on the waiver wire?
Maybe not first week. Although I mean, I don't hate the matchup. But like, I think I had been kind of fading him. Even though I expected him to come back, I had been fading him for this year because I always try to fade people within a year, like inside of a year of ACL or Achilles injuries,
right?
Especially
ones that run,
right? Like with Burrow and stuff like that, it was a little bit less of a fade. I mean, I still faded him a little bit, but it was less of a fade because he doesn't rely on his legs as much. Kyler relies on running. I do think he's an underrated passer, though. I think he can do well enough as a passer to probably be top 12 rest of the season or maybe top 15. But like, and I don't expect him to be the same exact Kyler Murray that we've seen, but he has been a stud like every year. So you got to take the chance at least because he probably has the natural instinct to run still.
I think so. And I just expect less running. I mean, if you're looking on the waiver wire, you're either desperate for a QB or you have a QB buy. So you're taking a chance on a guy for a 1 week. I think it's fine against this defense that just kind of got shredded against Josh Dobbs. Let's talk about Deshaun Watson a little bit going against Baltimore. Now, don't love the matchup. like it's my least favorite matchup of the list.
Yeah.
Returned to form somewhat last week. He looked good. Touchdown was a little bit fluky.
Bouncing off
But
the helmet.
there was
Just
some
like
positives there. And I get it. It was against Arizona. We've seen him now perform best against Arizona and Tennessee. Neither have much of a secondary at all, but gonna have a real test against Baltimore again.
yeah, and the big risk is like the shoulder, right? Like he came back the week before and then went out, and it's just like it's like the risk with him. I mean, we've been waiting for him to return to his Houston form for a little while now, and like it
Yeah.
still hasn't happened. I mean, I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but we know we've seen him perform at such a high level that it's like it's hard to like look away from that, you know? Like
Right.
I don't know. Again, I don't know if it'll ever happen again, but I mean, the dude was like historically
Definitely
good.
somebody you want to stash. I don't know if I would plug him into my lineup this week. So if we were looking at this from a week, he's probably number 4 on this list. But I would even
Fair.
Baker and Taylor over him this week specifically.
Yeah, it's fair, and I don't blame anyone that does. It's tough for me because like it depends. Like I'm always the type where I don't want to hold more than one QB on teams. I just want to stash my bench with like as many like upside running back stashes essentially as possible, or wide receivers. And so it's tough. Like I don't think I would drop him for Baker or Taylor. Like if I didn't have a drop, you know what I mean? Like
I don't think I would do that either.
Russ maybe.
But if I
Like,
was picking up, I needed just a 1 week guy, I
Right.
might
Like,
consider
if you have
Baker.
Hurts
I might consider Heineke.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like if you have the guys that are by this week, Hurts, Tua, and Mahomes,
Yeah.
that's definitely fair for sure. Like I don't blame you at all. Like but in the situation where like you have Watson and you're deciding like, do I drop Watson for one of these guys?
I would probably drop Watson for Kyler Murray, Sam Howell, and Russell Wilson though.
Yeah, Kyler and Hal for definitely I'm fine with. Russ is the borderline one, but I think I probably would because they're putting up like similar numbers anyway. So it's not like it's like a big drop off. Like it's not like you're losing out anything to me.
They're putting up similar that's at Deshaun's 2 best games. But outside of that, he's not even putting up those numbers, right?
Right.
I mean,
yeah. I mean,
Russ is QB 15 on the year with a bye.
I'm
So
also
probably,
yeah, and I also kind of don't want it to put. I mean, I know we like can. I don't want to use the game where Watson left like in the first quarter with injury as part of his points per game.
Yeah.
So it's like, but at the same time, yeah, Russ has been better points per game, even taking that one out. So yeah, I like I said, I'm certainly fine with it, and I'd rather have Russ this week. And then it's a kind of a toss up to me rest of the season between them. So it's like
I see. I guess Deshaun's been a little bit better fantasy wise than I realized. 20, 11, 22, minus 1.8, which is the game he threw 5 passes in, and then 18.96. Honestly, not a bad fantasy performance. Just
that's what I'm saying. He's run a little bit more too. Because he has like 100 and some rushing yards or whatever
first week.
in those games. Yeah.
Let's talk some RBs here. We definitely have some things we're going to talk about, but we're going to our RB list. We have Devin Singletary at Cincinnati, Jalen Warren versus Green Bay, Tyler Algier at Arizona, Antonio Gibson at Seattle, Keaton Mitchell versus Cleveland. And then here's some RBs to stash if they're out there. And then this goes for everyone. Tajay Spears, Zach Charbonnet, Elijah Mitchell, Tanks Bigsby, Roshan Johnson, Jamal Williams. So we want to touch a couple, touch a little bit base on Warren again. We want to talk Keaton Mitchell here. First question though, before we get into those guys, is what are you seeing out of Singletary that you have on your highest RB priority here?
Yeah, it's only because the only reason I have him the highest would be the fact that if Pierce didn't practice at all the entire week, and I know he busted, but like that was against Tampa, right? And Tampa is far stingier against the run than Cincy is. So like, I don't have if I was gonna choose which one I would rank the highest of these guys this week with no Damian Pierce, I'll probably rank Singletary the highest. Like come Sunday in my ECR rankings, is what I'm saying. If that makes sense.
If you had to do rest of season, who would you pick here?
Rest of season.
Yeah, and just list between the 5. List rest of season who you'd want, because I think that matters too.
Warren, Keaton, Algier, Singletary, Gibson.
Actually, pretty surprised that your Keaton Mitchell, that you have some Keaton Mitchell love, because it looks great, runs fast. Won't see a ton of receptions, possibly won't see a ton of goal line work. Like that is what did you call it? I think you call it the between the 20s guy.
Yeah, between the 20s grinder.
And this year, this week, he just was so good that it just kind of hides all of those things. And now you're wondering, is this forever or isn't? And I think the same. I think it's I think it's flashy. I think long term really could be an answer for Baltimore's rushing game. This season, it seems like he's just going to get stolen. All the goodies are going to get stolen by Gus.
Yeah, well, that's why I have him that's why I have him so low on the one for this week. He's such a tough one for me because he's the most explosive of any of these guys. He's in the best offense of any of these guys, right? Like he technically could be the best of any of these guys if he was to get the work, but he's splitting possibly 3 ways, and then not even counting Lamar, so possibly 4 ways of the rushing pie. Right. And we don't know what he's going to get work wise, because it seems like you said, that Gus Hill's the goal line guy, that Justice Hill is let's say Gus Edwards. Gus Edwards Hill. And Justice Hill is the more of the pass catching guy. So he kind of needs 2 injuries to really be a workhorse level guy, because if we saw him in a workhorse role, if he's getting 15 plus touches, including 2 to 3 targets a game and inside the 10, inside the 5 work, dude, it could be awesome. Yeah. But it's I don't know if we ever get that.
Jaylen Warren once again outperformed Najee in a yards per carry perspective, not so much a fantasy points perspective, but Warren had 8 yards per carry. Meanwhile, Najee 4.31. The flip for them to lose, Warren has been set in 40 to 50%. I think 49% snaps has been his highest of all season, or 48. So it hasn't changed. Last week was only 40%. I don't think that's going to flip. Do you?
I don't think so. I think it's just a clear split. It's going to take an injury to one or the other for the other one to get the full workload. But Warren has been flex worthy, RB2 type worthy, and in some weeks, and flex worthy in other weeks in full PPR. He kind of gets a little bit more of the pass work, not full. It's almost like they rotate series in a sense. You know what I mean? It's not like they're designed for specific roles. It's they rotate series to keep fresh or something. That's what it seems like, because they both get pass catching work. They both get carries. It's just they split the work evenly almost, and which has been fine. It's been good for the Warren drafters and terrible for the Najee drafters, considering draft capital. Love where you took them in the beginning of the season. But yeah, he's to me he's that. I think we called it flex with benefits before, where you got the guy that you could throw in as flex, but he's also got the high upside handcuff stash type role too.
I think that's putting it perfectly, and I think if he's out in your waivers, he's a definite must stash, especially as a Najee owner, but just in general. Tyler Algier is almost that flex with benefits as well. Mm-hmm. I think if those would be the 3 that I would be targeting for the week and for rest of the season, is Jaylen Warren, Tyler Algier, Keaton Mitchell. Just speaking for myself.
Fair. No, that's fair for sure.
And I love the RBs to stash list. It's always freaking solid, but those most likely are not available. Let's talk some wide receiver waiver finds. So we, on our list, got Tank Dell at Cincinnati, JSN, Jackson Smith Najigba versus Washington, Pop DeMario Pop Douglas versus Indianapolis. Quentin Johnson versus Detroit's defense. Also check for Jahan Dotson, Josh Downs, Jameson Williams, Noah Brown, Wandale Robinson. I know Noah Brown's sneaky ad here. So let's talk a little bit of Tank Dell. I mean, dude just went off. I think it was 152 touchdowns, 132 touchdowns.
Oh, I thought you meant 152 touchdowns. I was like, dude.
Oh,
yeah,
114.
Like.
I thought he had 150 yards. Sorry, 114 yards, 2 touchdowns, 11
catches.
targets, 6 catches. I mean, and this isn't the only time. Like he's had some really big weeks.
He had like back-to-back weeks. I think 2 weeks before. Then he got banged up a little bit.
Weeks 2 and 3 he had back-to-back. Then he went a little bit quiet versus Pittsburgh and Atlanta. Misses New Orleans. Bye.
He got banged up. Then Carolina. Came back last week, was a little bit slower, but he got the thing was like I think I had said something last week that was like coming out of the bye, he still got like decent targets and route percentage and things like that. So like just don't drop him. But the thing was, it's funny because I had him as the top of the list last week coming out of the bye because he was under 50% rostered. And I was like, dude, there's no ways in this guy should be under 50% rostered. Went off. He went from 50% roster down to 40, like 7 or 48. And then that's going to shoot way up, obviously, this week. Because even like my streamers article came out today, which people have been just giving me so much shit about the fact that it's called streamers. And I'm like, dude, it's just the series name. It's the same article title every week. If you read the article, it says it's all the guys that qualify are guys rostered in 50% or less of things, and he's less than 50% of Yahoo League, so he qualifies, and I feature him.
I don't think he's one of. There's another guy that talks about. He posts his waivers. I would name drop him if I could remember. And in his like waiver list, he always puts not in my league Hall of Fame. So it's like NINL or something, dude. Hall of Fame. I don't think Tank Dell would qualify in that yet. I think if we talk about him next week, he might. Not in my league, but maybe. I don't know. I don't know if that.
Yeah, it's just, and it's the thing is like I posted it, and the first comment, like, cause I'll post it like on like a bunch of social media and like including Reddit, even though Reddit's a cesspool, but Reddit like gets the most views, so it is what it is, right? So Reddit, the first comment was Tank Dell's not a streamer, he's a rest of the season guy. And I was like, well, if you read the article, you'd see I said exactly that. But I mean, it's like, but I don't know. It is what it is. But Tank Dell, to me, yes, for sure, he's gonna skyrocket. Obviously came off a monster game. We talked about Stroud looking awesome.
Yeah, and I think Tank Dell's size, speed, it kind of sets him up to, you take the good with the bad. I think those bad games are going to happen. I think this is, truthfully, I think that's the type of player he is. It's going to be hard to game plan for him to see 12 targets weekly. It really is. And that's not a knock against his size. It's more of the type of receiver that he looks to be. So I do think there will be some down weeks as well with Tank Dell, but there will be some huge boom ones that you're trying to catch. DeMario Douglas, Pop Douglas, I think is another one worth really kind of diving in. Last 3 weeks has had 20 targets, 6, 7, 7. He has had 14 receptions. I mean, the dude has kind of made a little bit of a path to wide receiver 1 on this New England wide receiver needy team.
Yeah. I mentioned it a few weeks ago too, like that he was starting to really get going. He's worth a grab in deeper leagues now, especially when Bourne went down. That was when you really wanted to get in on him. And now like this is going to be one of the last weeks, I think, to get in on him. And because I expect another good game this week against Indy's awful secondary and defense. And their pass catchers are awful. Like Juju is a shell of his former self. They don't have anyone else that's doing anything out there. And they got Jalen Reagor getting targets. Like, dude, that just tells you how bad it is. And DeMario Douglas is clearly the most effective, explosive guy, playmaker they have as a pass catcher aside from Ramondre. And then it's just like, so I like him. I like grabbing him. I think he's can be like a wide receiver 3-4 type of range and full PPR kind of flex play. If you play in a 3-receiver league, 12-team 3-receiver league with a flex, probably going to be in that started, area of the wide receiver 3 or flex spot, whoever has them.
There's an argument to be made that we missed him in our draft.
Yeah, no, for sure. And he was one of the guys, him, Mingo, there was a couple of guys that were right on the edge there of that borderline. Where that they could have been any of those last picks. So yeah, I like them.
Love it. I have him in a few leagues, but mostly Dynasty, not Redraft. Haven't quite got there in Redraft, but he will be available in your Redraft waivers. You can almost kind of lock that one in.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to mention real quick on Dotson too, 8 targets in 3 straight weeks now, 8+ targets. He was dropped in so many leagues because he was awful in the beginning of the year.
Scary. Here's the scary news with the good.
Mm-hmm.
Curtis Samuel has missed part of week 8. Definitely missed week 9. Now, those 8 targets obviously came a little bit before then, but I think there is something to be said that the Curtis Samuel thing,
I agree,
played into it a little bit.
Yep. Same with the Gibson part too.
Yeah. Last we have tight end waiver wires. There's Trey McBride, right? As you look, I think there isn't a more clear tight end to own, but let me read the rest of the list. Taysom Hill at Minnesota, Logan Thomas at Seattle, Luke Musgrave at Pittsburgh, Hunter Henry versus Indianapolis. Also check for Dalton Schultz. Houston obviously has been better than I ever imagined because CJ Stroud is so good. And then deeper, Gerald Everett, Jonnu Smith, K. Dotton. So I really want to talk about Trey McBride.
Yeah. Is this the list for you? The same order?
Well, obviously 6 would possibly be number 2, but you're saying that as a see if he's
5.
available.
Yeah.
First 5.
Schultz would be 1 or 2 for me. I don't know 100% if I'd put him above McBride. And I know you like McBride a little bit more than me, so I can see putting him at 2. I think I'd go Schultz first, but I like McBride now too. But the 1 through 5 more.
I think so. But the problem is, as a fantasy owner, I've been burned too many times from Taysom. I'm not doing it with Taysom Hill. So if you're asking if I would actually pick him up, I won't, and I haven't. And he would just be erased from this list. But I understand it.
Yeah, it's wild. It really is.
I do want to talk about Trey McBride the most though, because Cleveland's defense against tight ends has been unreal. It's a conversation that me, you, and Robbie had prior to the game.
Which I take that all, eat that all from.
It's fine. But I have eaten the same amount on the other end when we're looking at a matchup and you're like, I don't care about this because they're so good, and then they go off. But I think what you might see here with Trey McBride is we saw a one-hit wonder in very casual leagues. He might not be on your waiver wire by tonight, but he might be there tomorrow. So
it's possible, yeah. It's possible. Although I think, in the casual leagues, I think people that are more tuned in probably going to understand it was a tough matchup. Now we get Kyler back, and they're going to be like, all right, we'll hold. Because he had that monster game the week before, and the usage the week before even was really good. So and with no Ertz. So yeah, I'm very optimistic about him rest of season and Dynasty.
I am so hype about him in Dynasty. And it was weird because I picked him up. Somebody dropped him. I picked him up. And Brian, prior to the Ertz injury, I think it was right after his first time where him and Ertz started splitting snaps, offered me, it was a good trade. He offered me a second for him. And I just watched him make his way, picking him up in 3 other leagues. So then I'm like, he's really wants him for some odd reason. He offered me a second. The dude is loaded in picks right now. I'm like, I'll counter and ask for a first because I don't want to give him up. I didn't want to give up my tight end. I really didn't. Yeah, dude. I don't know what Brian read prior to that. There was something that kind of gave him an inclination that not only was it was before the Ertz injury, but McBride hasn't showed out like he did that game. That game was insane.
It really was. It really was.
Those sort of games there, you're like that. You see that happen. You know the coach first off can game plan that. Secondly, you love the usage, and third, he can manage it. Like there's just so many good things. He was the first read option on that specific game. I think it was like absurd 40% or something like that, maybe even higher. I don't have the exact. I saw a tweet about it. How big? Like it was historical. How big of a first read option he was for that team.
Yeah. Oh, dude, trust me. I know about getting hooked on with a tight end on a game or a stretch. I've been living on that Tyler Higbee stretch from about 4 years ago. Been searching for that high again, and never getting it.
But Higbee wasn't a big he wasn't a second round pick, was he?
No, he wasn't as big of a recruit, but that stretch he had was literally historical. Like it was the best stretch of like 4-game stretch or whatever it was, 6-game stretch by any tight end ever. That's what I was like, dude. It was literally so good. It was
4th round pick.
Yeah, it was so unbelievably good that I was like, I was all in because I was like, dude, this is like sick. We talk about like
do you know what year?
2019 maybe.
Let's see if I can find it.
It was so unbelievably good that like
19 was his best year overall. So maybe you're
signature. Right. It's Scott Pianowski talks about it all the time, like signature significance or something. It's like some kind of term where it's like it's so good that it's hard to ignore. And then you talk about it with like, for example, like Amon-Ra, right? They were like Amon-Ra's stretch where he was so good at the end of his rookie season, and people were like, it was just because it was without Hawkinson, right? Blah 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 blah. It's like, no, he earned the target still. Like he did it. He went out and did it, and like that's what I was like. I'm buying into the same concept.
Here was this stretch: 7 for 107 and a touchdown, 7 for 116, 12 for 111, 9 for 104, 8 for 84 and a touchdown. I mean, we're talking quick math. That's 500 yards and 2 tutties.
Yeah, and like 10 catches a game or something, like, or 9 catches a game, dude.
29 plus 14, 43 catches
in 5 games.
43
so almost 9 catches a game.
For 502. Quick rounds.
Basically 8 for 100, 8.5 for 100 and a half a touchdown.
That's insane. I don't even remember that.
It was so, dude. I'm telling you, this is why I was all in on Higbee for the next year, and then like years. I was like, oh man, I'm searching for that, dude. Scratching it like an addict, dude.
So are we? With that being said, what's different about Trey McBride's only 1-game performance that we're high on?
I think he did it. To me, McBride did it with it was Dobbs still, right? And then was the game that he went off, and then the week before he did it well, and then he's also got a higher prospect pedigree, higher draft capital, and now we're gonna see Kyler come back, and hopefully we continue to see it. And then that's when I'll fully like I'm in enough to have him on my teams or try to have him on my teams and get shares. I'll be all in if he balls out the rest of the season.
Yeah, last year closed the season. He had a 7 for 78 performance with a touchdown, and he had a 4 for 55 performance. But outside of that, he had 3 little dud games. Can't even remember. Oh, it was Colt McCoy was the quarterback at that point. But there was no Ertz in those games either. So we have seen him do it one other time, and it was with Colt McCoy. But we got a quick question. Start 2 full PPR, Bijan, JT, or Mixon. I'm going to.
It's a nice problem to have.
So who did we? I gotta get some of these matchups because
I think I'm gonna go JT Bijan, but
that is so. Mixon does play Houston. Banged up. Jamar Chase.
JT plays New England.
Who they've been horrific. Pretty much.
Bijan plays Arizona.
Holy smokes, man! Yeah, I think you got to go. Oh.
Dude,
why can't you flex one of these guys, Kenny?
Yeah, and not only that,
who are you flexing that? Because I would honestly consider starting all 3 of these.
And this isn't a knock against you, Kenny. I preface this before I say this because I've told Mario and these guys this. I always like kind of hate like start sit questions this early in the week. It's because it's like it's gonna change for me probably, especially when they're close calls. Like as more news comes out, as more things come out. Like I usually do my first initial run of rankings on Thursday, and then I tweak. Then like I tweak them Thursday evening right before the Thursday night game, and then I tweak them the next few days or until Sunday. So.
Oh
Boy.
my gosh. What is this,
Ooh.
Kenny? 10 team? Eckler is my RB1, he says.
He said he's going to hit him with is this a 4-man league?
Yeah. Kenny, I think we're going Bijan and JT. We do.
As of now, yeah, but
there's two other shows that we pop on, come see us, pop in just if you want to do the question 10 team 4 RB max for 18. Well, you got the freaking probably best 4. Thursday we do a hot or not or studs and duds episode where we take a ton of and then maybe we'll have a little bit more. And then Sunday we do a live one. So pop in.
Yeah,
but
definitely the Sunday one for sure. That would give the best idea.
Yeah, right. We're both leaning Bijan and JT right now but if Chase is out, Mixon becomes really interesting. Interesting if Chase.
And I'm probably gonna have Mixon in my
guy.
top 12.
Appreciate you.
Kenny. Yeah, probably have Mixon in my top 12 or 10 anyway. To be honest, like probably all 4. Like,
I like it. Well, let's wrap it up here, Norton. If you're not already following Norton at Norton0723, he will. Yeah, it's right there. He'll be posting his rankings on Thursday. It sounds like, and then we'll be back tomorrow. It will be Rob and Alex tomorrow doing their weekly buy and sell trades. Thursday we'll do our studs and duds episode, and then Sunday we'll do a live episode for start sit questions. Make sure to check us out at DadBodFS on Twitter if you aren't already. We appreciate you guys. For myself, for Norton, we love you. Peace. Thank you for watching our episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
If you aren't already following us on Twitter, check us out at DadBodFS.
We'll be posting all of our best clips and videos to all of our social media: TikTok, Instagram, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube. You can find us on there at DadBod Fantasy Squad.
Lastly, if you'd rather just listen, we make sure we post our audio of each episode on all the major streaming platforms. Stick with us all season long so together we can count our trophies and not